Hi folks, my name is Chris and welcome to the Benchtop Micro Shop. In today's video I'd like to show you how you can take your shop vac and make dust collection for a small shop. If you're interested in more about dust collection with a shop vac, stick around. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below and of course ding the bell so that you'll get notified every time I have an upload and you won't miss any of the updates to the micro shop. The heart and soul of dust collection in my shop is this tiny separator with a bucket and a standard shop vac, wet dry vac.
Okay, so here I am attaching a standard 2.5-inch shop vac hose to my cheap Chinese Cyclone separator. I had to cut slits in the hose, kind of like a collet to allow it to expand to fit. And then here I am attaching the separator to a very flimsy Lowe's bucket lid. I ended up reinforcing the lid with a piece of 3/4-inch plywood. A lot on camera about laying out the pipe and cutting it to length, because really it's going to be unique to each shop and where your tools are laid out. But one of the features of my shop is it's a center run, and all of my machines are located around this 8-foot workbench. So I can have a pretty straight center duct with branches off from it. And then this is just showing you the underside of the bench where it's going to be mounted, and I have it mocked up on top of the bench. One of the ways you can save yourself some money or customize your setup a little bit is by bending PVC yourself. If you look here where the shop vac hose plugs into the duct itself, you can see that I bent that fitting. I used a heat gun. You can also heat it up with a torch. Just be careful not to burn it. And even a hairdryer on high would work to do that. Just allowed me to make a friction fit coupler for my hose to plug into the pipe. Here what I'm doing is just cutting and reinforcing the piece of plywood front of the bucket lid to keep the bucket lid from collapsing under the suction of the vacuum.
So this is my table saw hookup, and while I have the piping on top, you can see I've put these little end caps in and to all the other sections, and I'm going to go ahead and plumb in my shop back there temporarily and just see what the suction's like on this end, if there's much of a drop in suction. I used the heat gun to form this section around a standard shop vac adapter so that I can plug the shop vac hose straight into that end. And then that's why I've attached, you actually can't see them here, but on the outfeed and infeed of the Cyclone, I've put in the normal shop vac connectors so that they can plug right into there and plug into the shop vac. Or correction, so that this hose coming into the Cyclone can plug into here, and this can plug right into the shop vac. But for now, I'm just going to test the piping and see if I have any air leaks by just the friction fit. So around each connection I can feel airflow. However, now that my shop vac filter is completely cleaned out, the shop vac's got a lot more power than it has recently. It's going to be great to have that filter free flowing. Anyhow, I'm going to have to do some silicone as gasketing around each of the joints. I don't want to put them together permanently or PVC weld them until I'm comfortable with the setup. Then I may actually weld them in place, but it's likely I'll just use silicone as a gasket. So I'm actually going to go ahead, and while the silicone's still drying, I'm going to hook it up to the bucket and just see how the Cyclone performs. This is a little dusty, but check this out. Definitely captured most of the dust.
So at this point I have everything mocked up and I'm finally ready to install. I do plan on building on my dust collection as I go and not doing it all in one day.
Alright, so one of the great reasons of doing a mock-up, so I thought I had identified one problem originally when I decided that I was going to end up using these spacer blocks to increase the height, or rather how far down I was hanging the pipe. But another fundamental problem, and I can't believe I missed this, is obviously my miter saw was going to have to rotate around. So bringing the pipe up here is going to present a pretty obvious problem. It would prevent me from mitering to one side. And the reason why I didn't want to bring the pipe up through here is I want to be able to run wide sheet goods through the table saw for the full length of the workbench, so I can have 8 feet at least of outfeed as wide as possible. So what I've decided I'm going to end up doing is actually bringing the pipe up here in between the miter saw and the drill press where there's unusable space. Obviously if I'm running a sheet through, this is my restriction here to the back of the miter saw, so I can bring it up right here through the workbench. That eliminates the need to add these spacer blocks, and I can go back to my original plan and use my clamps that I designed. So anyhow, fundamental change. This T intersection is going to shift all the way down to here. So I'll probably have to recut a bunch of pieces of pipe, and I'm going to go ahead and do that now off camera.
So now that I have everything set up and corrected, it's time to install. So I just take each piece apart and take it under the bench and run some screws into the clamps and enjoy the high-speed install.
I designed these clamps to use 1¼ inch screws. That way I get about 3/8 of an inch bite of screw threads up into the underside of the table. I'm going to go ahead and start by mounting this piece, and then I'll use it as a reference for everything else. So my first piece, the clamp top split, so I'm going to go ahead and draw out my pilot holes a little wider, so hopefully that doesn't happen again.
So this hole is to allow a vertical section of pipe to come up through. I'm going to branch off from this for overhead sanding, for the miter saw, and for the drill press. I'm locating the vertical pipe in the dead space between the miter saw and the drill press. Here I am working away from the miter saw area toward the table saw, jointer, and planer. You may notice that my workbench is designed in two sections that come apart in the middle there. It's designed to split into two carts for disassembly if I have to move the system. I also made sure there was a joint in the dust collection at that location so that I can split it in half also and separate it when I separate the carts.
First machine to be hooked up is the table saw. And I've got these test plugs in all the spots where I'm not going to put a blast gate for now, and it's for future expansion.
Now that I got the table saw hooked up, it's time to give it a little test. Here you can see my simple blast gates. They're very easy to build. If you want to take a look at how I did that, I'll put the link to that video in the description below, and I would encourage you to check that out. And there's also lots of other project videos. I demonstrated how I put together each section of my rolling micro shop for you to enjoy.
Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to hammer that subscribe button down below, and of course hit the bell so that you don't miss any of my future uploads. If you follow along on what will be my dust collection playlist, it'll continue to develop as I improve dust collection in my small shop. What I'd like to encourage you to do is to not hesitate to do some form of dust collection if you have a wet dry vac or any kind of a vacuum and some readily available PVC pipe. I'd like to encourage you to do what you can for dust collection, even if you don't have hundreds or thousands of dollars to spend on any form of dust collection. Although there are optimal solutions for dust collection, and a lot of them involve large systems with thousands of cubic feet per minute of flow, but some of those aren't affordable or realistic for those of us that move around or for those that have small work areas. But you can do what you can to locally collect dust and save your health, and also save up on cleanup time by simply using a shop vac. Thanks for watching.